Hello.
Hello. This is Kelly.
Kyle. Welcome to No Bullshit. I feel like that needs jazz hands. Anytime I say it, I'm going to say no bullshit.
I feel like it's probably already
Is that jazz hands?
I feel like it's probably already copywritten, so maybe we'll...
Oh.
It's going to be no bullshit, but it's not.
If it is, we
not
didn't
official.
know. We didn't know.
Not official. It's probably I would go no bullshit. Gotta be copywritten, but there's gonna be no bullshit.
There's no bullshit.
Fucking no time
bullshit.
for it. There's gonna be a lot of swearing though. I don't know if you noticed that in the first 5 seconds.
I'm pretty much the F-bomb girl. What's your
Fuck,
favorite swear?
Fuck.
He says fuck because he's from Massachusetts. He can't even say fuck right.
We're not gonna have this.
Yeah, we're not gonna have this conversation right now.
Why are we here, Kelly?
Well,
why should people listen to us?
Well, they should listen to me because I have about 20 years of medical experience. I have some experience with addiction. What sort of experience do you have, Kyle?
I did drugs for a very long time, lots of them.
About 10 years, probably, right?
But off and on about 10 years, and then I stopped doing them, and then I tried them again, maybe just in case they weren't so bad. But it turns out they are. And then I did it, and I stopped again, and then I did them again. Yeah, until this. 2 years ago, I had a little incident.
I've Googled a lot, Wikipedia.
Don't Google my name. There's another person with my name.
No, totally.
That one wasn't me. Just throwing that out there.
The one with the green hair, that was him.
It was blue.
It was green.
Anyway, so you really shouldn't listen to us by any means. We have nothing.
We have life
experience. Yeah,
goes a long way, and you can't bullshit with life experience.
You really are gonna do that every time?
Every time.
All right.
Jazz hands. All right, so
oh yeah, we actually do have a point to talk about.
We do, yeah. I've been seeing this pop up a lot, as has Kyle, and so we thought we would talk about
especially today.
Looking at your phone.
I'm trying to share. I don't know if this is going to whatever.
You're tagged. It's on your timeline. All right, so we wanted to talk about the whole. Does relapse need to be part of recovery? Is that included in recovery? We keep seeing this, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Do you feel like relapse is a part? I feel like that's dangerous to say.
Let me preface this by saying that I have felt both ways on this. And after much research, I have fallen on the point where
through Wikipedia or
no, not Wikipedia, through my
WebMD.
Street knowledge. I graduated from the hard knocks shit. Anyway, okay. No. But no, seriously, I didn't.
He's very smart.
I didn't think it was very safe to tell someone that that it wasn't part of recovery, because then if it did happen, they'd be like, oh well, it wasn't supposed to happen and then it happened to me. But now, after researching it more and talking more about it, it actually to me is the complete opposite. Like relapse does happen, and it's very, very, very common to be a part of recovery, but it shouldn't be until it is. If it is, then it is. Then you take care of it. Then you deal with whatever you gotta do. You go back to detox, you get on MAT.
Do you feel like it almost excuses people to relapse by saying relapse is part of recovery?
I feel like you can use that as an excuse, but that's kind of the same thing as when people ask why people would use it as is addiction a disease. People are using it as an excuse. I'm sure in select cases no, it's not topic, but that's related to like just the way people talk about it. Like I'm sure that it does happen, but it shouldn't dictate necessarily why. It shouldn't dictate like where your stance is on if relapse is recovery.
I'm watching comments and Shannon's saying it's dangerous, and I kind of tend to agree with that, but I think Kyle's point is you don't want to make somebody feel bad if it happens, because it does happen frequently, unfortunately, and the lucky ones to survive it, we certainly don't want to make matters worse for them. So
yeah, but it's dangerous to say for someone early in recovery, is from what I'm saying is if they keep saying that relapse is part of recovery, in an addict's mind, in my mind, I'm thinking ahead. That's a reservation. That's to me is just all right. Well, if I do relapse, as soon as you start that train of thought, if I do relapse, then that's part of recovery. So that goes along with no bullshit. So that goes along with your lines of it could be an excuse. it's more of a rationalization in my experience, because that's what I always got complacent, and then I would rationalize, and then I would end up in some shithole life, just scraping by. So
how long did you do the off and on thing, Kyle?
a solid at least 9, almost 10 years.
Because you weren't like consistently always.
No,
your addiction was a little different than the addiction I experienced with Ava.
No.
Who pretty much consistently used.
I feel like males and females in general have a very big
That's a very good point.
Different experience in addiction, because I couldn't afford. I had a full-time job and I still could barely afford my addiction. So I don't know, but
I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier for female. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
No bullshit.
No bullshit. But
it's easier for females to get drugs.
But what was your? Well, I'm sorry. What was
no, I was asking how many you were off and on. You were a consistent
my
user the entire.
Because heroin wasn't as prevalent in my small town as it is now. Now it's killing people that I know from my town, from my city, like every day, and it's happening all over the country, all over the world. But when I was in high school, there was coke. This was 12 years ago, something like that now. So it was coke, and there was pills, but it just wasn't a thing. I never experienced it. It wasn't until I started in my early 20s working in kitchens, which are very high risk areas for anybody. It's like one of the top 3 most abused.
That's where you started.
That is where someone gave me a pill, and it's like, holy shit, why doesn't anybody want to feel like this all the time? This is the greatest thing ever. And then that's what your brain tells you.
And you start chasing that.
And then until the first time you realize you're dope sick, and you're like, I don't understand what is happening to me right now. So that's kind of where my story. I started with pills. It basically just progressed. They stopped making some of those pills, so you have to start doing other pills. And then heroin showed up, and heroin has just never left since. So I got lucky in the sense that I did something very, very dumb that I'll get into another time. That's not. You can Google it, but
it's the green hair.
I'm not the other one from like Ohio or whatever.
The green hair.
But I ended up doing something dumb. Got caught for the first time. I never gotten even in legal trouble. Never possession, nothing for going on a decade of serious drug use, whether it be pills, weed, which was illegal before. It's not where I'm from now. But cocaine, just mushrooms, acid, just all these stupid things. I never did meth.
You were an everything addict, huh?
No, I never. There's no meth around on the East Coast.
Yeah, there's not a lot of meth here.
And I never really did crack. I wasn't an upper fan. Even though I would do coke, it was only because I couldn't get heroin.
Even though he always seems like he's not an upper, he's not.
I get really excited. Especially when I see myself. He's like a little
puppy, one of those puppies that jumps up and down.
I'm going to drink out my Batman sippy cup.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Because I'm an adult. But but relapse did happen quite a bit. I didn't accept that I had a problem. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't accept it until 2011. I had a boss that I worked with. I gave someone money to go get me some drugs. The kid ended up screwing me over, and I ended up just being dope sick all night. And the next day I went into work, my boss just called me out. He's like, I know you're up, something's wrong. Like, this isn't the Kyle I hired. So I went to rehab for the first time, got out, gung-ho, I never heard the phrase pink cloud before, but in retrospect, pink cloud goddamn city. But I made it. Like, I was determined to prove everyone wrong, because they kept telling me, oh, this is your first detox, you're going to be back. And I was like, well, no, fuck you. Like, no, I'm not. But I lasted probably like 8 or 9 months. And then it was pretty good. And then started working back in the same kitchen that I started in the first place. And that's when I realized triggers are a big part of especially relapse. Because triggers you relapse before you relapse. You know what you're doing. Even if
I think that's a really good statement.
It's in your head. Once you get that thought and you don't get it out, you have to tell on yourself. That's the number one thing I tell people, is to tell on yourself. That's what the group that I'm part of, Heroin Support. You can look it up, because normally I do videos on there. This is weird being like a rogue thing, but you can go. There's so many places you can go to, because there's not meetings all the time, and meetings aren't for everybody. But if I never knew groups like this existed.
So the accountability factor is a big.
100%. But I would never tell on myself. I knew, because if I wanted to get high. Like that's really the long and short of it. I wanted to do drugs because drugs are awesome.
So in your mind, before the relapse even happened, it already had happened because you were already excusing it.
I was already in my phone,
planning it, or
especially with Facebook these days. It's like you can delete your friends' numbers, you can block people, but you can get it so much. There's so many ways around it if you really want to. So that's really where I would just get complacent, and I would say like, you know what, I have money for the first time. I'll just do a little bit of coke for a while, and that's never gone wrong before. I've never watched a movie from the 80s.
Brilliant, no bullshit.
Everything works great, no bullshit. But so one day the guy didn't have coke and he only had perk 30s, and I was like, okay, well, guess I'm doing that. And I did 2 of them and felt absolutely nothing, and I was blown away because I hadn't done an opiate in almost 9 months.
I'd die.
And having a wallet full of money and a car and everything, like I just felt like invincible again. Until my car broke down and I had no money to fix it because I was on drugs again, and I was just like, oh shit, like I can't tell, what am I, like I already told everyone that I'm good, like why, like, so that's when you start feeling even worse, because then it's hard to admit relapse, even to yourself.
Do you think it's even harder to admit a relapse than it is to admit you have a problem in the first place? Which is more difficult, do you think?
I would say relapse, because once you admit, if it's the first time, it's like a weight off your shoulders the first time when you finally, especially now that more people are understanding about it. But when you're so proud of yourself, even if you only get like a couple days or a week, that's a lot for a lot of people. Like most people can't last 2 or 3 days. It's awful. It's mostly mental too. Like physically you can get through it, but it's the mental drive that, like, your brain is just, it's your mind versus your brain.
And I'm going to interject here because I see that the physical is different with a lot of people too. The detox process, everybody's bodies are different when it comes to detoxing. So some people can
everybody's
handle
bodies
it
are different
with
everything.
Yeah, so
everybody metabolizes things differently.
Exactly.
That's the same reason why.
So for some people, the physical symptoms really are dramatic.
That's why some people can quit cold turkey just no problem and just tell other people, well, if I can do it, you can do it. That's another phrase.
Yeah, we don't like that phrase.
No bullshit.
No bullshit.
That phrase sucks. If I can do it, anyone can do it is wrong, because I know there's people who couldn't do it because they're dead. Like, it sucks. It's just the real world where we're at. But I would say, back to the question though, I would say that relapse is harder to admit, especially if it's the second, third time, because then afterwards, even if you're doing well,
I'll call you back, Katrina. I'm in the middle of something, honey.
even if you're doing well, or like you feel like you're doing well, like you say you get yourself back on track again, you're doubting that other people are doubting you. Like you have to almost try to not talk about how well you're feeling, because then it seems like you're going out of your way. Because that's what I would do if I was relapsing. I would talk about it like out of nowhere, be like, "Hey man, I'm doing really good," and they'd be like, "Okay, well, we're cooking eggs right now, so like, yeah, but I'm not on drugs, so that's cool, right?" And they're like, "What? You're totally on drugs, Kyle." So for the first time, I've a little over 2 years now. There's a lot of people that I haven't seen or talked to since that time. A little bit on Facebook and stuff, but I run into people every now and then in public, and I can tell they're kind of thrown off, because the last time they saw me was on the news with green hair.
Green hair, I was green.
And tell the story that I tried to rob a restaurant at knife point, which is not what happened.
That's not what we're talking about.
I'm sorry,
right
but no,
like that.
Green
Lantern arrest at another time.
This time,
it's a good story.
Not only it being 2 years later, like I don't feel like the time frame is even enough to prove, to get trust back, like especially with my family, earning trust. Like when my family started leaving their money around and leaving me home alone again, or letting me even come back to live in the house.
Yeah, that's a big.
After I got arrested, was just huge. So it was a big pride thing, and then you just got to prove. You don't have to prove it to anybody else. You got to prove it to yourself, and through your actions. If nobody else believes you, that's their problem. Like, it really is. If it's affecting your life, I don't know necessarily. There's so many variables, and people have so many different life problems in general. Without drugs, you add drugs into the mix, it's a variable. It throws everything off. So
I'm still confused. Where do you stand right now as far as relapse being part of recovery? What is your opinion on that subject at this moment? Because you've said that you've kind of gone back and forth with your opinion.
Yes, like it is part of some people's recovery, but it shouldn't be. People shouldn't say that relapse is part of recovery. It should be relapse is part of a recovery if it happens. Like, basically, there should just be an amendment at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, because I mean, we have to, I think, point out that that is the highest risk of overdose time, is when you've had that clean time and you relapse and you forget that you're not at the same level.
Plus, it's not heroin anymore. Nobody's getting heroin anymore.
Exactly. Well, especially around here. I know the fentanyl's creeping in everywhere, but here it's been prevalent for a long time. But you don't know what you're getting anymore. It could be different than it was 6 months ago or a year ago or 3 years ago when you tried it.
Getting autopsies back and it's just fentanyl and carfentanil. There's no heroin anymore. Then that's just not what's happening. But so where I line up now is it's not part of recovery until it is part of your recovery. Then, by all means, take all measures you have to do, whatever you have to do. If you've had significant clean time, you know you can do it. You probably know what led to your relapse. It doesn't happen on accident. I'm sure.
That's really important to
somehow. I'm sure somehow someone's accidentally gotten high and then accidentally relapsed. But that would be a slip. That would be more of a slip. There's a difference. That's also a difference. A lapse and a relapse. I want to talk about that real quick too. The difference between a lapse and a relapse, because some people consider if you just use one time and then say, like, you realize that, like, holy shit, that was the worst decision I could have possibly made. I'm never doing that again. Some people say, you relapsed, you have to start over. Like, clean time, to each their own. I'm not going to get into semantics about who wants to debate someone else's recovery and how they count it.
No.
Whether it's especially whether it's on maintenance or whatever.
No.
But regardless, I keep losing the train of thought. Where you got
lapse
me back.
Versus relapse.
Oh yeah, if that's something that smart recovery teaches you, which other people know a lot more about than I do. But if you can identify it and just stop it right there, and then maybe if you hit your meetings or you tell on yourself, like I said, and you tell someone, you tell your sponsor or your friends or your social group or your family, you can much easier. It's much easier to trap it right there, catch it where it is, than to pretend it didn't happen, because then chances are you're going to be in your phone the next day saying, oh, I don't really feel like shit. I still have money. Like, it's, even though you know
I can handle that.
I got it this time. I got it this time. Even though there's no success stories. Like, it's like I've tried to explain to people, it's your mind. When you get to a certain point, it's your mind versus your brain. Because your brain is always going to, even years later, it's going to tell you that it wants to get high because it's lazy, and we as addicts have just spoiled it. And our brain just wants that rush of dopamine as fast and as quick as possible. But you got to have your mind just be like, no, we tried that. It doesn't work. Now I'm in control. Like this whole life thing is pretty sweet. And helping other people, even just a little bit with my story, is just unfathomable. I graduated drug court and got called a role model. It just still feels uncomfortable, but it's good to be able to prove to people that it can happen. Because if you looked at my mugshot, you would have just thought, like, this kid's done. Like, I missed my 10-year graduation because I was in jail. Like, I can't imagine what people would think. Like, that was me for years. I was just balls to the wall. I would try any drug. I would be the first one to try it. I wouldn't care because I was just burying my insecurities. But back to the actual topic, if I had relapsed, like, now, I don't know how I would handle it, to be honest with you. It would probably weigh on me very, very heavily. I don't know how I would handle it. It's scary to think about.
So, in order to avoid a relapse as opposed to a lapse, you're categorizing them as something different. You're saying you should just immediately tattle on yourself when you've lapsed, which would be,
if you can,
to you, a one-time,
maybe two, like maybe
thing rather than
maybe you get a bag
completely sucked back in.
Yeah, if you can. and then if it makes you feel better, if not, if it makes if it makes you feel better to literally literally say that you did relapse and own it, then by all means do that. I'm not trying to psych yourself out or lie to yourself. That's the number one thing. Be true to your own self, because if you can't lie to yourself, you can't. Especially people with like anxiety or undiagnosed mental issues, you can't rationalize this anxiety problem. Like the more you try to outthink it, the more it's gonna outthink you. At least for me, because my brain goes a million miles an hour anyway.
As you can tell,
yeah,
probably.
I probably need some sort of ADHD medication.
No medications.
Yeah, this is me on Kool-Aid.
No bullshit.
No bullshit. Oh yeah. This is your brain on Kool-Aid in a Batman sippy cup.
Yeah, really, that's really fucking happening right now.
I told you I'm an adult. And I'm gonna continue to be an adult. Do we have any actual questions?
Claudia's saying relapse isn't recovery, it's part of addiction.
Oh, Carol, I like what you're saying right there. Keep it first person. You're right. This is all my point of view. I'm not trying to say that this is, like, I'm not an expert. I explained that at the beginning. Like, I'm not an expert. This is my point of view. This is clearly just my opinion. Most of my opinions I try to base off of facts, but this is because this is.
I don't know that there are facts that can back any of this up.
Not in this case, exactly.
Opinion.
This is semantics at its best, and I think what's most important is that we all realize we're all on the same team, regardless. So if it's
that is huge, because I am so sick of seeing people fight about this.
Yeah, every day I have to.
If it fucking happens, we'll deal with it. But don't judge people if it does.
Yeah, because you can't. There's almost nobody that can say that they've never relapsed, and if they did, they weren't an addict. They were,
or they aren't
dependent,
wanting to admit it. Or I don't know a lot of people that can say the first attempts I tried. I mean, maybe there's a few, but
no, it's hard. It's
few and far between.
Especially now that it's, like I said, it's not just like pills like when I started, or heroin. It's way
you don't
stronger.
Know what the hell you're getting.
It's way stronger.
You don't know what you're getting.
And like, there's harm reduction ways. Like I was telling this like earlier today to someone. Like if you're still using, there's still ways to do harm reduction. Always do a test shot. Make sure you got clean needles. Try to be with somebody. Have Narcan. Because if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. There's nothing that's gonna stop. Especially if you're gonna relapse. If you know ahead of time you're gonna do this, no one's gonna stop you. You're not gonna tell on yourself. At least be safe. Like, don't go hide in the bathroom where your family's going to find you, and then that's not the last thing. Like, nobody wants to find their loved one dead anyway, but they would much rather have to deal with the relapse than a funeral. Like, let's be real. Like, I'm sick of funerals. I hate them.
We're all sick of them.
If anything ever happens to me, have a goddamn party. I don't want a funeral.
Just stop with it.
But that's just for my sake. But I do like I said, how Carol said that.
I'm gonna read Ryan has I like your comment, Ryan. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always got.
Yeah, the old if nothing changes, nothing changes. Kind of the opposite of that. Like, yeah, just if it works, work it. Keep going. Like, never try everything. Especially if you're struggling early on. Like, if you can't get clean, try everything. Because I've tried Suboxone, it didn't work for me. I just abused it. The only thing that ended up working for me was realizing that if I didn't stop what I was doing, that I would end up homeless and then end up dead. Like,
so this is where actually Dan is a professional, and his opinion is, well, he's saying it's very easy to lie to yourself. So, you know, tattle on yourself, like Kyle was saying.
It's you. Even though you know you're lying to yourself, as long as that's why it's hard. That's why it's hard to admit a relapse, because once you say it out loud, you can deny it and deny it, even though you know the other person knows. You know they know. They have the evidence in their hand. They're calling you out, and you're still, oh, that's something I found. That's old. I just found that. It's because once you say it out loud, that means it's done. That means your shame is back. All of those feelings that you fought so hard to get away from. The clean day
countdown.
Yeah,
that shame really kind of discourages people. I hate. I always say a relapse, if it does happen, which is unfortunate, but it happens. It doesn't take away from all that time that you've already had. You still
time's an illusion.
Worked for that time. Don't take it away from yourself because you slipped up. I don't know. I don't like having to reset the timer.
Yeah,
I
stopped paying attention to my specific time. I just know necessarily like it was November of 2015, so I know it was a little 2 years ago. But like if you start obsessing about little things like that, like about what other people think, exactly. that's what got most of us into this situation in the first place, is what other people think. Like what other people think is that we want to help you. You need to be saved. Like that's what people think. Even if
I'm going to interrupt you because I want to answer Jackie's question. She's the loved one of an addict, and she's asking what she can do to be supportive without seeming like a nag. That me being the loved one, that was a very difficult thing. I had to be very open in my communication with Ava, and she had to really tell me, Mom, you need to back off a little bit. So I would open up the dialogue with them and ask them to let you know if they're bothering you. I found she needed a lot of space and she needed a lot of time to do this on her own. And I mean, I don't know if you're a parent. She was living in my home, so I had a little bit more control over the situation. Like we did drug testing in the beginning for her safety. I'm not sure if you're a parent or what your relationship is with the person, but just be open with them and ask them to let you know if you're being a nag. I mean, that was helpful for me because we don't always know what to do. We need someone to tell us, hey, you're not doing it right.
I want to point out what Karen just wrote with relapse is part of the disease, not part of the recovery. Like that makes a lot of sense. There's a whole other debate about whether addiction is a disease, which it is.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
We'll talk about that. But you're right. It's because like I've been 2 years clean, and I for the longest time before I didn't think it was a disease up until my most certain research and obvious personal experience. But no normal human thinking pattern would ever go to, hey, I should start doing heroin again because my life turned out fucking awful and everyone hates me and I lost all my money. I almost died. All my friends are dying. Like that's not a normal thinking pattern. That's a disease. That's a diseased mind. So you're right. Like relapse stems from that. But if you can, like that's why everyone's different though. That's the thing. Like this is again like back to I forget her name. Whoever pointed out earlier. This is only my experience because
Carol.
Yeah, everyone's different. Like every addict you talk to is different. Everyone has different advice. This is a really, right now we're in a very trial and error kind of area, but most importantly, I think harm reduction is the area to go to. To just reiterate, we're all on the same team. The inner battles that we're having about stuff like this topic is just not necessary, but it is necessary enough to at least maybe put out a video to just get the topic going. Because
it's been going.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But it's like you said, we're all on the same team here. It shouldn't be a clashing thing. I mean,
no. That's I try to end that with like anytime I see an argument on the group that I'm in that I admin. It's like if you can't solve, like we're all on the same team, guys. Like we don't want people doing heroin. We want people to stop dying from heroin. We want heroin to go away. Like it's not going to, realistically. We can get into government stuff some other time and why the epidemic is as bad
that'll
as
be
it
a
is.
good one. No bullshit on that.
I'm reading actually a really good book called Dreamland that really it depicts basically the start of heroin in America in Ohio, and specifically why Ohio is as bad as it is because of the pill mills. But that'll be another time. But
yeah, we're getting off topic. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here. But so generally, in Kyle's opinion and from what I've seen, relapse occurs as part of the disease. But
yes,
we don't want to say that it's part of recovery because I feel that's a dangerous message to send people, because again, that's the time that's most critical and where the most ODs occur. So we don't want to say that. But if it happens, just try to get help as soon as possible and get back on track.
Yeah, like they say in the meetings. Like I'm not a big meeting fan, but they say like just no shame. Like this I've seen this.
Yeah, it's a brain disorder. I mean,
I've seen this beat the strongest people. Like it takes them
not
down.
A matter
It destroys. It's not a matter of willpower. That's one of the worst things you can tell someone, that it's about willpower, because it's not. Like,
that's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
That is big bullshit.
No bullshit. That's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
But yeah.
Okay, so
more or less. This is a lot longer than I expected it
to be.
I talk way too much. I'm sorry.
He talks really fast too. So for him to talk that
Massachusetts.
fast, I want a word count on this.
I went to Massachusetts to tell me I talk fast. They'll be like, yeah, I understood everything. I'll translate later if you want. I'll put subtitles.
Yeah, we'll subtitle from now on.
Just all the fucks. I love you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You hit finish.
Okay, well, I was trying to do it from the mouse. No bullshit.